right, I think we'll get started again here. Welcome to Snow Squall Awareness Week, our Facebook Live event here on Thursday night. We're going to culminate the week here with all that we've been sharing with you this week on safety, science, and communication of snow squalls. But first and foremost, we want to thank you for tuning in and for absorbing this content this week. It's really helping to keep Pennsylvania highways safe during the wintertime. And that's what we want most, is for you to arrive safely at your destinations this winter time. Of course, we are culminating this and coordinating this with PEMA, PennDOT, State Police, and the Pennsylvania Turnpike, our state agencies. It's been an incredible effort with them, both from the press conference this week and sharing safety messages through the state police. It's just an incredible effort, and we can't thank them enough for participating and really enriching this whole experience. So I want to start out by showing you a video. Some of you may have seen this before, but this really encapsulates the danger of snow squall. So if that doesn't make your jaw drop, I don't know what will, but that came from a driver from Wisconsin last year who was driving his Tesla on the highway equipped with 360-degree cameras in every direction, and he thankfully sent us that video so we can show you what happens instantaneously during a pileup. Clearly, anybody who sees that video will make the same conclusion. There is no safe place on that highway during that snow squall. And that's our message. We don't want people to be there, but if they are there, we're going to present safety tips on what to do to maximize the chances of you staying safe in the middle of a snow squall. So for tonight, again, what we've been talking about this week is science, communication, and safety. We'll talk about what a snow squall is, why they're so dangerous with a flash freeze, and the appearance of a squall in the distance on a sunny day can be your first hint that a snow squall is coming. And communication, that's the biggest part of this, is communicating effectively and having that message be heard and acted upon. And we'll tell you the ways that snow squall warnings get disseminated and reach people, and 501 PA service through PennDOT, giving you road conditions in PA, latest updates on those. And as far as safety goes, we're going to tell you what to do when you receive a warning. We'll repeat this, but we want you to delay highway travel or exit the highway ahead of the squall, because once one arrives, there's really no safe place. What if you get caught in a squall? There are safety tips that we will give. They came from state police and others. And what if you get caught in a pileup? So that will all be communicated this evening. So again, there is no safe place on a highway during a snow squall. We reinforce that. I tell that to my wife. I tell that to anybody I care about. Do not be on the highway when a squall arrives. So as far as the science of snow squalls go, it's fairly simple. If you're familiar with summertime thunderstorms, moisture, lift, instability, we're just dealing with storms on a lesser scale, less instability, but just as potent with the mixed phase of snow as opposed to rain in the summertime. You can turn a sunny winter day into quite a nightmare in short order when a squall arrives. It's almost as if somebody throws a blanket over your car and then immediately takes all your traction away. But you're on a crowded highway with a bunch of other vehicles, fully loaded tractor trailers that suddenly require 10 times the stopping distance, and we're talking multiple lengths of football fields. So snow squalls are convective as in thunderstorm-like bands of heavy snow due to high instability and strong forcing, typically along fronts, but they don't have to be. They can have high snowfall rates, so they'll hit with blizzard-like conditions, last for a few minutes, drop just a a little bit of snow, an inch or less in a lot of cases, but 2-inch per hour, 3-inch per hour rates during that time are very common. And snow squalls are like a miniature blizzard. They hit quickly, but then they can transition away very quickly as well. Drivers who are unaware that they're coming or have been unwarned are often caught off guard. And essentially we're warning for visibility is less than a quarter mile and flash freezes. But as far as the science goes, very similar to convective forecasting in summertime. So snow squalls, as we mentioned, are very similar to thunderstorms, intense, heavy snow because of the instability. That's the mechanism that causes heavy rain in the summertime. Anytime you're dealing with that kind of updraft and downdraft, you're going to have gusty winds. And of course, the blowing snow and heavy snow produce whiteout conditions, especially on highways. And they're analogous in many ways to the summertime thunderstorms, violent, short-lived, heavy rain. You can see up to 4 inches of rain in less than 30 minutes. Strong winds. The storms in summertime are taller, so they actually have a lot more momentum with the downdrafts, so we would get stronger winds from those. But we can see a wide variety of severe weather from summertime thunderstorms, lightning, thunder, hail, tornadoes, etc. Now, what is a flash freeze? That's really what we're talking about making snow squalls most dangerous. They occur in two main scenarios, but they can actually occur any time the road surface temperature is above freezing and the air temperature is below freezing. But weather-wise, synoptically, as we call it, a snow squall along an Arctic front where the prefrontal temperatures are above freezing, wet pavement from the initial falling snow, and then plunging temperatures behind the front. Essentially, you get the melting on contact and then the freezing on the pavement. That is a classic situation. Another one is a post-frontal air mass, temperatures falling rapidly behind the squall, water freezes forming a dangerous layer of ice. Again, this can happen though anytime you have road surface temperatures above freezing, and sometimes they can get up to 50, 55 degrees Fahrenheit on a day when the surface temperatures are below freezing. So, what do you think a snow squall looks like in the distance? Well, sometimes it only looks fuzzy, hazy on the horizon. You may have a bright sunshine. Maybe you're battling a low sun angle and thinking, wow, what a sunny day, and then 10 minutes later you're driving into one of these. An approaching snow squall gives a milky white appearance on the horizon. It can obscure ridge tops as you're driving towards it. A snow squall takes on a cellular appearance or a long linear wall of white. And as you can see in the photo on the right, that's very similar to an anvil of a thunderstorm. You're essentially raising the column to this equilibrium level where the cloud top spreads out, where it's stable at that level. It's essentially an anvil because it's the same mechanism. So as the snow squall becomes closer, its appearance will become increasingly dark, and you may be able to see the snow coming towards you if you haven't already exited. If you don't know that a squall is arriving, it becomes dangerous very quickly. So as far as a review of the science, I've talked about the connection to summertime severe weather, instability, what makes snow squalls the most dangerous, the reduction in visibility, whiteout conditions, and the flash freeze component. And it's the onset of all of these conditions simultaneously that makes snow squalls probably the most dangerous weather phenomena that drivers can experience in the wintertime. And with that, I'll remind you there's no safe place on a highway during a snow squall, and we'll talk about snow squall communication with John Gooseman, our warning coordination meteorologist. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Greg. So what we're going to really focus on here is how we go about alerting you for snow squalls when we're seeing them across, specifically for us central Pennsylvania, but it's really anybody listening across the rest of the country. Rules all stay the same. So snow squall warnings are a lot of what we're going to hit on here. So Greg talked a lot about the similarities between snow squalls and summertime type thunderstorms. So here on the right is what one of these warnings would look like. So we draw them up the same in the office as we would a thunderstorm, tornado, or flash flood warning. And then once we send this out, it goes over the emergency alert system and goes out in a matter of seconds. And we'll talk about a little bit the wireless emergency alerts that you get on your phone here in a minute. So the idea here, they're short fused, meaning on the order of maybe 30 to 60 minutes or so maximum in time length. So they're different than winter storm warnings or winter weather advisories. Those are usually issued maybe a day or so in advance for, say, 12 or so hours. So a longer fuse type event. These snow squall warnings are again meant for the very quick hitting blizzard type conditions, and then that flash freeze component on highways. So at that point, if you're not on the roadway, not getting on the road, or gradually working your way off of it as soon as you can. So as I mentioned here, we'll talk in a minute which one of these will alert cell phones going forward. And then here's an example. We actually had a few across the state and just north issued today on Thursday. So the idea here with the box or polygon around it would look like on radar imagery, so just south of Pittsburgh in this example. We may very well have a few more issued by our office and our neighbors tomorrow, Friday afternoon, as a cold front moves through the state and reinforces our recent cold shot of air here across PA and much of the eastern and northeast U.S. So last year, and since we've been issuing snow squall warnings in 2018, and it may have been a year or so after where they started hitting the wireless emergency alert system, but every one of these warnings that we would issue would set off your cell phones if you had the emergency alerts for weather enabled on them. So this year, there's been a change to that to help really emphasize the more prolific and intense snow squalls and subsequent warnings that we put out. So you see here this general and significant tag. So the general tag, or kind of a baseline warning, if you will, is meaning that we're seeing conditions permanent for a snow squall, but we may not be as highly confident on that flash freeze component that Greg talked about. So loss of traction in that may not be as sudden of an occurrence with this. In other cases, we may be issuing one of these overnight, so say at 3 in the morning, and we don't want to alert folks, if you're at home safely in your bed, needlessly setting off your phone then. Of course, we've still got motorists in that, say truck traffic on interstates and major highways. So our relationship with PennDOT and the Turnpike Commission, they'll light up their digital messaging signs and still alert that way. So it's a way that we can issue the warning but not alert everybody if you're not about to get on the road or already on the road. And then these significant tags, these will all set off the wireless emergency alerts. So we're going to issue these when we're highly confident that we're going to see a flash freeze. And again, that basically icing over of the pavement and the roadways. Again, when we're highly confident on that. So a more substantial and imminent threat at that point. So to kind of show you the delineator if you get one of these on your phone versus if you don't. So always a good thing too to stress having multiple ways to get warnings. So don't rely just on your cell phone to get these, but have other ways. So whether it's a weather radio, internet, be listening to TV, FM radio, whatnot. And then another great resource for those of you local and in the Commonwealth here, the 511 PA app. So it's readily available for both Android and Apple devices. So you can go through and check road conditions before you head out. So I know I was using it Tuesday, working an evening shift here in the office before I went out, deciding which way to go home. And it's got other things. It says there are highway construction updates and that, but a really good way, and locally here, and almost every state has one of these if you're joining from afar, where you can go in and check conditions on your app quickly before taking off and hopefully having somewhere to stay at home or delay your travel if necessary. So a couple quiz questions here. I guess we can either you can think silently or put them in the comments section here. But first question is on, see here, what is the name of the process by which the road turns into a sheet of ice as a snow squall moves through? Give you a hint, it's 2 words. Most opting for the silent thinking. All right. So I think we've probably said it enough between Greg and I at this point. But so that's that flash freeze. Again, more confidence in that. We're likely to issue that significant tag snow squall warning and set off wireless emergency alerts on cell phones. And then the second one here. So where is a safe place to be on a highway during a snow squall or after a snow squall has come through? And I see a bunch of answers rolling in for the first one, so it may just be a little lag in the connection. And this is kind of a trick question too. So home, good answer. All right, everybody's catching on. So exactly. So really pushing that the past 2 years, there is no safe place on a highway during a snow squall or immediately after a snow squall has gone through. So home's another good answer. I haven't specifically said that, but off the highway, best place to be for certain. So that leads in well to the third topic here, getting on the safety, and we're going to turn it over to John.
Thanks, Goose. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for tuning in. We're still keeping good allotment of folks tonight. So I'm going to go through snow squall safety, which is probably the most relevant part for all of you, especially as we head through the winter months. We had the pile up in the end of March and in fact have snow squalls in the forecast for tomorrow. So these can really be any time between November and March, sometimes even lingering into April. So big picture snow squall safety, we've talked about it already a decent amount. When a snow squall warning is issued for your area, what should you do? Well, there's a couple things. We want you to delay travel or safely exit the highway. So ideally, if you get a snow squall warning, you won't be on the road yet and you should delay your travel so you're not going onto the road in a scene that might look like this. Or if you're on the road, we really want you to safely exit the highway as soon as you possibly can. And this is all, again, you've probably heard us say this a billion times now, there is no safe place on a highway during a snow squall. Now, we also understand that it's not always possible to get off the highway. There's inevitably going to be times where, despite your best intentions, you're unable to exit safely. So that's when we start to talk about what's best to do in that situation. Well, big picture, this is maybe the before, we could say. For before a snow squall warning is before you encounter a snow squall on the road. In fact, tomorrow, if you're driving between State College and Harrisburg in the afternoon, this is what the scene could look like. Snow-covered ridge tops, some snow on the side of the road. There is some treatment on the roadways already, but it looks like a pretty pleasant day. All of a sudden, you enter a snow squall, perhaps unbeknownst to you, and a few minutes later, things can turn into whiteout conditions. Snow is falling heavily, and it becomes a really, really scary situation, as we saw in that video much earlier on. So if you're on the highway during a snow squall, maybe the situation is exactly like this. You're on the highway, there begins to be sort of a backup of cars. What should you do in a situation where you encounter heavy snow? Well, I want you to reduce your speed. Ideally, that's going to be your gut instinct anyway, as you're not able to see as far in front of you. We encourage you to turn on your lights if they're not on already, and also your hazards to increase your visibility for cars that are behind you. And what's really important here is avoid slamming on your brakes. There's a possibility with a snow squall that the road has turned into a sheet of ice, a flash freeze has occurred, and as a result, if you slam on your brakes, you could start sort of fishtailing a little bit, and so we don't want you to do that. This video right here is from the Iowa Department of Transportation, and you can see the horror of this situation. You can see there's a person here sort of standing on the side of the road that has to race out of the way. You'll note that this car is pulled off on the side of the road, but that's still not safe because you can have other vehicles that are doing the best they can to stop, and so that's why we say there's literally no safe place on the highway during a snow squall. Next to the road's not safe. Up the hill might not even be safe. You can see how far the semi goes up to the right-hand side. But if you are caught in a snow squall on a highway, reduce your speed, turn on your lights and hazards, and avoid slamming on the brakes. Here's another GIF that shows sort of the horror of this. Similar message here. I guess the additional thing is to stay in your lane and increase your following distance. Try to be as consistent as you possibly can so that other vehicles are not having to swerve out of the way for you. But man, these can be really, really scary things. I do also want to note right now that if you're in Pennsylvania this winter, PennDOT has implemented 63, what's the word I'm looking for? Variable speed limit signs. where there will be reduced speed limits in situations where snow squalls are in the forecast or occurring. So we encourage you to heed those. If we can reduce the speed that vehicles are going, it's going to improve the possible outcomes. The faster people are going, the more violent the crashes and the higher likelihood of injury or perhaps even death. So one of the big things that we've added this year in consultation with Pennsylvania State Police is what to do if caught in a pileup. The motivation for this came because in the end of March in 2022, earlier this year, we saw many videos, which we'll see in just a little bit, where people were standing outside their vehicles next to their car as a pileup was ongoing. Now, for most wrecks, that's what you're told to do. Stay with your car, maybe get outside of your car, but in a snow squall, that is the worst possible place you can be. Ideally, if you're in a pileup, we want you to drive slowly forward to the front of the pileup, because the more cars you have between you and the back of the pileup, the better your chances are of surviving. So move slowly forward if you can. Again, do not stand outside your vehicle. And then once you get pulled up to the front, we encourage one of two things. If you can do so safely, and this is a big if, it might not always be possible to see what's happening behind you, but if you can do so safely, get as far away from the roadway as possible. And in fact, if you can get something between you and the road, that's best. Whether that's a concrete wall, if that's a tree, get as far away as you possibly can to limit your risk of being plowed into by another vehicle. If you can't do that, then we encourage you to stay inside your vehicle with your seatbelt securely fastened. None of these options are particularly great, right? With all of these things, we cannot guarantee that you're not going to still be injured, because you could be plowed into, trapped in your vehicle, and that's why we say there's no safe place on the highway during a snow squall. But if you are caught on the highway, and if you do get into a pileup, these are sort of the best case scenarios for you to take. So again, if snow squalls in the forecast, ideally delay or avoid travel to lower your risk of being involved in a pileup like this, because I can tell you just from watching the videos what a horrifying situation it is. This graphic Pima put together this year for our Snow Squall Awareness Week campaign, and I think it really does a great job. So do get as far away from the road as possible if you can safely do so, like this guy right here. Do stay seated in your vehicle if you can't safely exit. That's a good idea. And do slowly move to the front, but whatever you do, do not stand on or near the roadway. This person not doing the right thing. You should either be in your car or as far away as possible. All right, time for another quiz question. What should you do when a snow squall warning is issued? Again, go ahead and type your answers in the chat or think about them in your head. What should you do when a snow squall warning is issued? We said there's really one of two things that you can do. So as those answers trickle in, delay travel or exit as soon as you can do so safely. So again, if you get a snow squall warning and you happen to be either getting in your car or in your car, please get off the highway. You do not want to drive through one of these things. A lot of good answers coming in. Excellent work. All right, so to recap snow squall safety. The hazards: heavy and blowing snow, wind gusts up to 40 miles an hour, and icy roads from a flash freeze. Dangerous, life-threatening travel. So encourage you to slow down gradually and turn on headlights, stay in your lane and increase your following distance, and delay travel or safely exit the highways. We hope it's loud and clear as we've talked about this. We've been trying to scream it from the mountaintops now for a couple years. These things are really, really dangerous and scary, and we encourage you to try to keep yourself safe as much as you can. All right, so now let's recap the pileup in March. I will just throw out here that there are some sort of gruesome scenes, and it's fairly horrifying to see, and so if you would like to look away, that's reasonable. We think we want to communicate this to be able to show you the danger and the horror of these situations. I'm going to play two different videos simultaneously. The one on the top right is from a guy who was out of his car, away from the road in the pileup, and on the bottom left, this is a truck driver, a dash cam as he was heading in. On the top left, you can see some of the news headlines as well, and aerials from this pileup, which I believe was about 60 cars in late March. So you can see with this guy, you start to see the plume coming up, but you can't really see very far ahead of you, and all of a sudden, before you even know what's going on, you end up slamming into these vehicles in front. Horrifying situation. Now, direct your attention up to here. You can see this guy who's standing next to his vehicle. It's going to be pretty remarkable what happens here in just a second. Car slams in front of him. Miraculously, he's unscathed, it appears. But that is why we say do not stand in the highway, because this could have turned out very differently. Now, one thing you may or may not have noticed with this video on the bottom left, go ahead and play it through one more time. You can see this person dive out of the way at the last second. Fortunately, this person survived. There were 6 fatalities, all caused by people who were trapped inside their vehicles, and unfortunately, their vehicles caught on fire. But this is not a situation you want to be in. Much better to be in your vehicle. If you can do so safely, get off the highway when possible. But if you look here in the bottom left, you're going to be able to see this person standing right there. They dive out of the way at the last second. Horrifying situation. Again, you do not want to be on the highway when a snow squall pileup is occurring, and that's why we're trying to spread the word and get the word out. 6 people did unfortunately pass away in this pileup, and this is not the only time this happens. We see it every other year or so. There's these scenarios that transpire where there's these big pileups, commonly in Pennsylvania, but also across other areas of the Northeast. So again, there's no safe place on the highway during a snow squall. As we close here, I'd like to play this 4.5 minute video, which represents sort of the epitome or the culmination of all of our efforts. This has video segments and clips from all the partner agencies that were involved with this program. I'd like to shout out Mike Colbert, our forecaster, who sort of threaded all these together. But I think this video itself does a really good job of summarizing all the things we talked about. So let's just take a moment and listen and watch together. Snow squalls are one of the most dangerous weather events across the Mid-Atlantic and the Great Lakes regions of the United States.
Snow squalls are brief but intense periods of snow that can produce on the order of 2 inches of snow in as little as 30 minutes. The strong gusty winds that accompany snow squalls can bring drastic reductions in visibilities and oftentimes whiteout conditions.
Snow squalls can quickly bring a variety of challenges to drivers, especially on high-speed roadways. Hazards include rapid reduction in visibility, talking about going from clear, sunny conditions.
Let's try this again. Sorry about that.
Can bring drastic reductions in visibilities and oftentimes whiteout conditions.
Snow squalls can quickly bring a variety of challenges to drivers, especially on high-speed roadways. Hazards include rapid reduction in visibility, talking about going from clear, sunny conditions to a whiteout in seconds. Snow can turn a dry roadway into an ice skating rink in just a few minutes. This increases your stopping distance by 10 times. So at 70 miles per hour, instead of taking the length of a football field to stop, it will take a half a mile. If you can't see and you can't stop, your likelihood of getting into an accident increases significantly.
In 2018, the National Weather Service implemented the snow squall warning, giving meteorologists the ability to communicate actionable and timely information to members of the public.
The National Weather Service issues snow squall warnings during the winter to advise you on the arrival of hazardous and life-threatening conditions in an area and especially on highways.
Be sure to sign up to receive snow squall warnings through various phone apps. Make sure your phone is set to receive wireless emergency alerts.
What we mean when we issue a wireless emergency alerted snow squall warning that arrives to your phone is that it's not safe to be on the highway when this arrives. We want you to delay your travel if you're not on a highway, and if you're already traveling, pull off to the nearest exit and get off safely before the squall arrives.
There is no safe place on a highway during a snow squall. We think this encapsulates the gist of what you should do. You should not be on the highway. Even if you're pulled off on the side of the road, you could still be plowed into by an out-of-control vehicle.
If a snow squall warning is issued for part of your travel path, delay travel or plan to take an alternate route.
One of the things that makes snow squalls so dangerous is that they can really catch drivers off guard. They can occur on a day with an otherwise partly sunny sky, just a few clouds here and there. They're not part of a big blizzard or nor'easter, but they can develop out ahead of a cold front or if you have an unusually unstable air mass.
If you do find yourself still on a highway during a snow squall, here are some safety tips to follow. Avoid slamming on your brakes. Instead, slow down gradually to avoid spinning out or having others hit you from behind. Turn on your hazard lights to help others see you on the roadway, and turn on your headlights to not only help you see, but also to help others see you. As long as you can safely do so, stay in your lane. Avoid any sudden maneuvers that may result in a loss of traction. Gradually slow down and increase the following distance between you and the vehicles in front of you. Up next is Corporal Brent Miller from the Pennsylvania State Police with some tips on what to do if involved in a pileup.
If possible, drive slowly forward to the front of the pileup. If stopped, do not stand outside your vehicle on or near the roadway. If you can do so safely, get as far away from the roadway as possible. If you cannot safely exit your vehicle, remain seated inside with your seatbelt on.
Hi, I'm John Fleming, Chief Executive Director for PennDOT's Highway Administration. PennDOT is very concerned about the safety of the motoring public, especially as we come into the winter driving season. Motorists can also check road conditions at 511pa.com or download the free 511pa app for Apple or Android. Driving mode allows you to receive hands-free updates on the go. 511pa gives you information about specific traffic conditions, traffic speeds, live traffic images, highway construction updates, weather conditions and alert, and locations of your local plow trucks. Please always be aware of your surroundings for changing weather conditions and safely arrive at your destination this winter season.
Pennsylvania has a history of high-speed accidents and multiple vehicle pileups during snow squall events, which have unfortunately resulted in numerous injuries and even deaths.
So throughout this winter, remember, there is no safe place on a highway during a snow squall. All right, my apologies for the technical difficulties there about midway through that video. But again, a great multi-agency effort with PEMA, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, the Turnpike Commission, and Pennsylvania State Police. So we're going to wrap things up here right now, but again, there's no safe place on the highway during a snow squall. We encourage you to go check out weather.gov/CTP/snowsquall, where we have all this content and more. There's a frequently asked questions document, there's some videos as well, and a list to a bunch of links for articles and interviews that we've been a part of this year and last year as well. Please do follow us on Twitter and then on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram as well. We'll be posting content throughout the winter. Tomorrow is the last day of Snow Squall Awareness Week. As we said, there is a chance for some snow squalls moving through central Pennsylvania tomorrow afternoon between about 12 and 7 p.m. I can encourage you to check our social media sites for more information on that storm or the potential for snow squalls. But again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll monitor the chat to see if there's any questions as we wrap up here. But otherwise, stay safe this winter, and we look forward to seeing you in future social media posts and Facebook Live briefings as necessary throughout the summer. So on behalf of Greg DeVore, Jonathan Gooseman, and all of our partner agencies, thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.